If you're like me and do most of your woodworking outside or in a very small workshop, then you're going to absolutely love this DIY router table. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how I built this router table with step-by-step instructions, as well as explain the 5 reasons I think you should build it immediately. One of the best features I'll explain at the end of this video. Don't go anywhere because you will not want to miss it. Before we get into the build, I just want to explain reason number 1, which is accuracy. Using a palm router by hand is incredibly difficult and takes a lot of practice. It's very easy to lose your line, go off an edge, and ruin a great piece of timber, which not only wastes time, but it wastes money. This router table ensures that your timber stays flat, so your routing edge always stays perfectly up against the router bit. To start this build, you'll want to find a piece of timber the right size. This piece of pine I had was perfect, so I cut it down to fit between the 2 supports of my table saw. I used the table saw to mark out the areas of the board that needed to be removed with a jigsaw. The great thing about this build, and reason number 2 on the list, is it's incredibly cheap. In fact, most of the cost is in this board alone. If you happen to have some plywood or scrap lying around that's large enough, you're barely going to spend anything on it. This Dewalt table saw does have some plastic stopping this piece of timber laying flat, so I just removed that with a chisel, and that allowed the board to sit perfectly flush with the top of the table saw. Next up are the table saw fixings. I use these pieces of oak, cut them down to size, and then attach them using some wood glue and screws. You want to make sure to mark exactly where these need to be positioned on the underside of the table saw with a pencil. Clamp them down if it makes it easier. The inserts are just 2 pieces of wood cut down to fit within the aluminium brackets. Drill through these and then attach them with 2 adjustable bolts. Reason number 3 is that this router table is very secure. As you can see, once these bolts are tightened up, this router table is not going anywhere, making it incredibly safe whilst you're using it. To attach the router, you'll want to remove the base and mark exactly where the screws need to be attached to the board. Drill through each mark with the appropriate size drill bit and then fix to the base of the board using machine screws. To drill the main hole for the router bit, you can either use a drill bit that's the right size, or if you're like me and don't have one, you can use the router itself and slowly drop it through where you need that hole to be. Be really careful doing this and make sure to use a piece of scrap timber underneath your main board. Reason number 4 for building this router table is convenience. Everything you need to access on the router and the table saw is on the same side, including the power buttons and all of the adjustments on the router itself, which means no trailing wires everywhere across your workshop. As you can see, everything is now built and working, which leaves the final reason and maybe the best thing about this particular design, which is you can actually swap over the router to the other side of the table and use it with the built-in fence of the table saw. You just need to attach a sacrificial piece of wood if you're working really close to the router bit. You can also use this table saw to cut perfect circles, as I'm demonstrating here. I absolutely love this router table, and I'm sure you'll see it in many of my future videos. If you've made it this far in the video, then please show some love by smashing the like button. Consider subscribing. Let me know what you thought of the build in the comments below. And if you like the look of the cross sled I was using, then I'll show you how to build it in this video next.